Hello, this is Christy Reyes, and I'd like to give you a look inside the online portion of my current hybrid class. The announcements are set up to be the home page. The announcements include reminders about homework, campus events, and other opportunities at our school, and the announcements are sent to students' email addresses on record. Next in the navigation area is My Grades. Here, students can check their grades in the gradebook at any time. The next two links I have included in the navigation are resources for students. First is the Student Help Desk. Anytime students have difficulties with the technological side of studying online, they can contact the Help Desk, either by phone or they can chat online with a help desk representative. Next is a link to all the student services offered at the college, which include counseling, DSPS, tutoring, the Writing Center, and much more. The arrangement of content in my class is by week, with the current week always on top. Let's take a look at the activities for 1 week. Within each weekly area, there are two folders. One folder is for all the activities that the students do in the computer lab during our on-ground face-to-face class time. The second folder contains all the activities that students will be doing for their online study portion of the class. Our theme in week 1 was the American Dream. So I began with a little introduction, and I'll just read that. It says, "What is the American Dream? You have certainly heard this term before. Perhaps for some of you, the promise of the United States for greater opportunities than you or your children could enjoy in your native country is what brought you here. The American dream is certainly what many immigrants have achieved in this country over the years. However, for some people, they believe that the meaning of the American dream has changed and that it is now impossible to achieve for average people living in this country. So the objectives of this thematic unit are to read about different perspectives of the American dream, for students to check their reading comprehension and build their vocabulary by learning some words used in the context of the articles on this topic, and then write their own definition of the American dream. I always include a listening or reading note-taking guide so that students can be active listeners and readers. So they can download that right here if they weren't in class when I distributed this handout. So first, students look at a definition of the American dream and learn a little bit more about who invented this term, when, and what it meant in the beginning, and take notes. Then they listen to and read an essay from the National Public Radio's program, This I Believe. They use an online dictionary or thesaurus to look up definitions of words in the essay. Next, they read a second text from the website MarketWatch that has a more pessimistic view of the American dream. Again, they use an online dictionary or thesaurus to look up words from the essay. Next, to practice the vocabulary that they have been reading and noting the definitions of, they will go to this Quizlet set of flashcards, and I have them practice the definitions of the words with the flashcards and then take the test. The wonderful thing about Quizlet for ESL students is that it includes built-in audio, so students can hear the pronunciation of new words and the definition. For the next activity, students take a graded quiz that has comprehension questions about the articles they have read. This quiz is set to allow for multiple attempts. I always tell students that they may retake a quiz to get whatever score they want to get. And I tell them that they must retake a quiz if they score lower than 70%. Then I have students look at a couple of different types of texts. One is an article entitled "Who Still Believes in the American Dream?" from The Atlantic. And it has pictures with captions of all kinds of different people living in this country and their definitions of the American dream. Then they watch this video. It's about first-generation Americans talking about the American dream. For the last two texts, they needed to answer some questions. First, from the text, they wrote down one quote that they agreed with and explained why, and wrote down one quote that they disagreed with and explained why. They used that information to create their own definition of the American dream. So then they summarize and paraphrase the different ideas of the different texts that they read, and they go to the discussion board and post each author's point of view in their own words. The follow-up to this is a definition paragraph in which students write their own definition of the American dream. I've also included in this week extra online practice with the grammar that we were working on that week, which was subject-verb agreement and noun plurals. So now going back to the navigation area, that's how I set up the weekly activities. Next, I have a link to class information. So it's just a place where students can look if they need to be reminded about the dates of the class, my contact information and office hours, important test dates. They can look at the SLOs for the class, and they can also view the syllabus anytime from that link. Other links I have in the navigation area are a student lounge question and answer forum where students can ask and answer questions not specifically related to the content but on other things. I have a messages area. It's like a built-in email where students can send and receive attachments. Finally, I have a link to just many different websites that I recommend for advanced ESL students to practice their listening, learn idioms, pronunciation, grammar, writing, and so on. So this is my online portion for my hybrid class, and you can see that I use Blackboard. Thank you for watching.